Welcome, one and all, to T-Pool's Corner. We are on day 10 of the 12 days of Bloomborough, and we're dealing with the last main animal type to go tribal with, and that is frogs. And part of the reason that I'm willing to spend so much time in a row in Bloomborough is because we're going to have less of Bloomborough around. Or I should say, we're going to have it around for a smaller period of time. It's interesting the choices that Wizards of the Coast has been making. They've been making a lot of what I would call, I guess you could call them strange decisions or just interesting decisions. But what they did at first is they changed the standard rotation of the sets from 2 to 3 years, so we get to play with the cards longer in standard. Then they introduced Foundations, and Foundations is going to be around for at least 5 years, and they said possibly longer. And then after that, let's see, blah, 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 blah. I think I want to do this, so that means I need untapped land, right? I don't have untapped land. I don't have that choice. So let's just put down the Dour Portmage and see if that works. So then after that announcement, at a recent MagicCon, they announced they're changing the time that they do the set rotations in Standard. So the 3-year standard rotation will still be kept, but instead of doing it from the autumn to autumn season, where standard rotation would be in like September, right? This is normally keyed with historically the release of their largest set. And since then, they've modified the way they do the sets, so now a lot of sets are coming out as big sets. And I think for the 2025 schedule, we're going to get 6 sets for standard legal, which so we're going to get a set every 2 months. Anyway. They announced that they are going to have the rotation now. Let me just block that creature. I don't know why they're attacking there. They're going to have the standard rotation at the beginning of the year instead of in autumn. I guess we'll take that creature. Then we put down the Long River Lurker, which is what I wanted. We'll designate the Pond Prophet as being unblockable. We'll attack with the Pond Prophet. The Pond Prophet can be exiled. When it does, it triggers the Dour Portmage. Whenever one or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without drawing, draw a card, and we get another trigger off the Pond Prophet to draw another card. So trigger, trigger, trigger. And they're using variations of the flicker and bounce mechanics to sort of give us the bouncy type feel of frogs. Flyers. What are they doing? No blocks. Okay, Sticking Tongue Sentinel enters. We get to put someone back in our owner's hand. And we're going to make it... What's the Pond Prophet? We get to draw a card from that. Thank you, Dour Portmage. Gives us another land, finally. Which we already played a land, though. I think we just want to get rid of one of these things, right? Let's make you cast that again. They're blue, so you have to give them extra time. So anyway, they're going ahead and they're going to change things. What that means for us is that Bloomborough gets to be rotated out of standard with the other sets 9 months earlier than originally it would have. And so does Duskmourn. And Duskmourn was rushed out anyway. Duskmourn wasn't introduced at the original time, so to speak. So we're getting reduced time with Bloomborough, and we're getting even less time with Duskmourn, which seems pretty backwards because everybody seems to like both of those sets better than Karlov Manor and Thunder Junction. Okay, Might Collar definitely comes down. Clifftop Lookout. Hedge Mace to see what is next. Bellowing Crier, I guess. And then here we can exile a creature we control. I think it's okay to exile. Let's look at this real quick. We could have some fun with this if we wanted. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to exile the Long River Lurker. Draw a card from that. We'll get 3 triggers. We'll get a counter on the Might Collar. Then we can target the Sticky Tongue Sentinel. Now this can't be blocked. We attack with the one that can't be blocked for 3. We get to choose to have it leave, which triggers another counter on Might Collar, another card draw from the Port Mage, and now it's entering again, so we can return one of these up into the owner's hand. And which one do we want to put up into our hand? I think we want to bring out this puppy. We have to discard a card finally. I think we'll discard a land. We've got them beat on land draw, but they've got us beat on the number of creatures they have out. But I think we did as good as we could using all of our mana, using all of the synergies of the frogs to refill our hand. And how many more of these are they going to have in a row? If they have a couple more, I'm in trouble. Okay, we're down to 10. And they managed to refill their hand. Okay. Alright, Lily Pad comes down. What kind of things do we want to do here? I feel like we start with you. Then we do one of these. Then we do River Lurker. And I think we're going to do the Sticky Tongue Sentinel again. And then we still can do the Splash Portal, right? We can't use it on the Valley Might Collar. So I think we use it on Clifftop Lookout to go get some more land. We'll also get a card draw off of that. Trigger, 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 trigger. Let's see, hang on. Which one am I doing now? There's so many triggers. Okay, put a +1 creature on target counter you control. We're going to do that on the Trampler. And now we can attack with one that can't be blocked and a 9/9. And they take it and go down to 4. Life is good. Okay, we exile the Sticky Tongue Sentinel. He comes back for another trigger. And we're going to get to draw a card. Let's see, return up to 1. I'm going to submit 0, not bring anything up. And I'm going to go ahead and put an extra point on something I have with reach. And so I end up with a full hand again. They shouldn't be able to kill us this turn. You have to get... They're trying everything. Okay. Okay, let's see what we can do. Okay, we'll block what we can with the flyers. Oh, actually, hang on. They've got a mystic here. There's the mystic. That's in the air. We'll get that. I think that's all I have for reach, so one at the top's going to get through. We will try to block you. We'll try to block you. And we'll try to block you. And that's 5 points getting through. And they knew they couldn't withstand our return strike after that. And that is probably as good a demonstration. I'm glad I got that on the first try. Angel of Finality. I think I have 2 copies of that now. Alright, let's go in here. Let's look at the frogs. We've done all of the other main animal sets. So we end up with 24 lands. Average mana cost is 2.3, so yet another really cheap deck. 26 creatures. And it's all based on the idea of all these frogs are basically the version of... They're like sliver frogs. You do something with one, and it gives an effect on every other frog that's on the field. And when we do that, it turns out there's a lot of when they enter, right? Enter is shortened phrase for when they enter the battlefield. And so if you're blinking and exiling and throwing and bouncing and all of these different mechanics that they have to just bring them back into the battlefield multiple times. So I can do this, you know, if I get the right cards, I could have the Pawn Prophet come in and enter like maybe 3 times in a turn and get 3 card draw. Now, most of my playtesting is endless amount of land flooding. So even though I had the normal standard number of cards, what I was doing was I was ending up drawing more lands and spells. But the last one we did this starting off today, it was the opposite. I started off with a smaller number of lands, and we got a lot of good cards that we drew in the meantime. So here's what we have. We have Into the Floodmaw, an instant. Return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. If I get a 1/1 tap fish to the opponent, I can make it is a Splash Portal. This is our blink card. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it's a frog, which is mostly what we got, you get to draw a card. So this card replaces itself, and we get to repeat battlefield effect. Mist Breath Elder. It's a 2/2 frog warrior. I only have 2 of them, but I put both in. At the beginning of your upkeep, you return another creature to your owner's hand. This is not... Mist Breath Elder is the only creature you have at the beginning of your upkeep, returns to your hand. So, if you do, you put a 1/1 counter on Mist Breath Elder. Otherwise, you may return Mist Breath Elder to its owner's hand. No, I'm sorry. This is the one creature that will stay. If everything else, if you have another creature out, it's going to return that other creature. It only works on another creature. But if for some reason you have no creature in the field and you just have Mist Breath Elder, you can Elder back up to your hand if that's situationally advantageous. 1 Sun Shower Druid. When it enters, you put a +1 counter on target creature and you gain 1 life. 4 of the Valley Might Callers. We have used this in all of our other decks. So whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, you put a +1/+1 counter. We used it in a rabbit deck, we used it in a raccoon deck, and we used it in our squirrel deck. It's a crossover animal card. And now we finally have the frog warrior in the frog deck. So I couldn't very well use it in the others and then leave it out of this one, right? 4 copies of Bellowing Crier, Frog Advisor. It's 2/1. When it enters, you draw a card, then discard a card. This is one of the ones where I keep drawing stuff and I keep drawing lands and discarding the lands. So I feel like I need it just to cycle through my deck, but it's another one that you can bounce and you know, just another way to cycle through your deck fast. Dour Portmage, 1/3. I only have 1 copy right now. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, you get card draw. Plus, it can sort of fulfill itself if you've got time and extra mana as a mana sink, but you do have to tap the card. Only do it once a turn. Return another target creature you control in owner's hand. And when I keep saying that I only have a copy, that's just for the newer players. I am a free to play. What I did for this entire series of, and this is number 10, out of all of the Bloomburrow Animal Tribal decks, is I did not craft a single wired card to show you. If you're new, just crack open a bunch of Bloomburrow cards, type frog in the search bar, put all the Bloomburrow frogs in a deck, and presto, you got a deck. If you're new to the game and you're having trouble finding the time or understanding all the complicated aspects of the cards to construct a good deck, just choose one of these, rabbits or squirrels or frogs, and get a bunch of Bloomburrow decks, and the deck just assembles itself. And you don't necessarily need to have the max min type of strategy that a lot of gamers do to maximize the most efficient cards to get a winning deck in these animal tribal sets. The Wizards of the Coast designer teams worked to make sure that they were all kind of balanced against each other, and that means they're kind of automatically balanced for the standard environment that we have. Moving on. Overprotect. Instant target creature control gets +3/+3 and gains trample, hexproof, and indestructible until next turn. Paw Patch Formation lets me destroy a creature with flying, a target enchantment, or I can draw a card and create a food token. 3 Tree Scribe, say that 3 times fast. It's a 2/3 frog druid. Whenever it or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, you get a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. We're usually putting that on our tramplers. Down, destroy target artifact or enchantment. If we have 2 pesky artifacts or enchantments that we absolutely need to get rid of, we can destroy 2, but they get to draw a card. The cards that I think is better designed as far as the gift a card type of or gift mechanics. A lot of the other gifts are no. It's really easy to turn them down, but if you've got 2 devastatingly impactful artifacts or enchantments that you're up against, you will definitely just be willing to give them a card to get rid of certain things that are on the field facing you. I have 3 of the Pawn Prophets. When they enter, you draw a card. That's a favorite blink target. Long River Lurker. This is one of my favorite ones, even though I only have 1 copy. 2/3 Frog Scout. It has Ward 1, but also all other frogs you control have Ward 1, just like what the slivers do, right? As soon as one sliver enters, all the other slivers automatically have that ability. When this one enters, the creature you control can't be blocked this turn, and at the end of the turn, you can exile it. So if we get something like a Valley Might, like a 9/9, we could say, oh, you're not going to be able to block the Might Caller. Maybe we don't want to exile it. This one's optional. At the end of your turn, you can exile it and blink it back. But if we did that to the Might Caller, it would lose all of its counters. So you don't have this unblockable and leave it so you have a powerful, and then just leave it on the battlefield. Or maybe have a smaller creature that you just hit in for 1, 2, 3 points of damage, but it has an enter into the battlefield effect that you'll then want to exile it at the end of the turn. So this card has a lot of flexibility to it, whereas something like Mistbreath Elder is a little bit less flexible because it's just automatically going to return another creature to your hand if you have it. Waterspout Warden. And some of these I have 4 copies of, but I ran out of room, right? So I'm just having like 1 copy of a frog, so you get the biggest exposure to all the frogs in the set as much as possible. So 3/2 Frog Soldier. When it attacks, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, the Warden gains flying until end of turn. Don't underestimate this card. A lot of people dismiss it. As much as we've got the Angels back in Foundations, a lot of people still aren't prepared to deal against flyers. This Waterspout Warden, just by bringing another frog into the battlefield, suddenly you're dealing 3 points a turn. This could end the game if they can't remove it or block it. Clifftop Lookout. This 1/2 has reach, which is useful. When it enters from the top of your library until you get to a land card. So the opponent's going to be able to see all those cards that it draws until you get to that land card. Then that one land card goes onto the battlefield tapped. Everything else goes into the bottom of your library. So just keep in mind when you use this card, the opponent can get a peek into like 5, 6, 10 cards of whatever's in your deck, depending on how deep your next land is. Sticky Tongue Sentinel. This one's a fun one. 3/3 Frog Warrior, also with reach. When it enters, return up to 1 other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Clement the Worrywart. This is a legendary frog druid for 3/3. It's got vigilance. When it enters, or another creature enters too. Return up to one target creature you control with lesser mana value to its owner's hand. So when Clement comes down, I can bring all these 2-drops and 1-drops up into my hand. If I bring down a 4-drop, I could bring Clement back up into my hand. Frogs you control have the ability to tap and add green or blue mana, but you can only use it to cast creature spells. All frogs will now have that ability. Splash Lasher, a 3/3 frog wizard with offspring. When it enters, tap up to one target creature. I love it when I'm able to save up the full 6 mana and cast this, and you get that little baby token frog wizard you see to the right. It's only a 1/1, but a 1/1 that gives a target creature, puts a stun counter on it. So you could tap 2 creatures down, and that can be a game winner if suddenly they're expecting to be able to block in the later game, and suddenly, surprise, you can't block with anything. Creature you don't control. Tree Guard Duo. This one's a frog and a rabbit together. You see them pictured there. They look kind of cool. It's a 3/4. When it enters, target creature you control gains vigilance. A lot of creatures. Lily Splash Mentor is it's a 4/4, kind of one of the more powerful cards that we've got. It also has reach for 3 mana, one of which has to be green, one has to be blue. You can exile another target creature you control, return it to the battlefield, and it gets a +1/+1 counter on it. You can only activate this as a sorcery, but notice you don't have to tap this Frog Druid. So if you've got 9 mana in the right colors, you could exile 3 different creatures that you control, or if it's useful, if it has an enter into the battlefield effect, you could do it 3 times. This is what I'm talking about when you have like Pawn Prophet, and if you got enough mana, you could just basically blink this 3 times and draw 3 cards. So if you get set up properly, you have a lot of chances for card draw. 3/3, when it enters, exile to another target creature you control, return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next step. So just basically a blinking. And sorry, that was my most expensive creature deck. The most expensive, or creature spell. The most expensive spell is a sorcery, Calamitous Tide for 6. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. This could be yours, could be theirs, could be one of yours, one of theirs. You draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And again, this is a lot of times used as like just before battle as a combat trick. Maybe getting things out of the way, or maybe you anticipate a board wipe and you want to see your guys' things. Board wipes are pretty bad against this deck. In terms, I should say they're pretty good against this deck. That's very bad for us. For the lands, we got to the Lilypad Village. We can, for 1 blue, surveil 2. So if I'm flooding out with land again, I've had times in my playtesting yesterday where I'd surveil 2 and they were just 2 lands. I threw them in the graveyard. It didn't seem to help much because I just draw more lands, but whatever. Oak Hollow Village, for 1 green, you can put a counter on each frog that entered the battlefield this turn. And I didn't include any man lands in here that transform from lands to creatures, so that's pretty much it. You notice I didn't do a demolition land either because I don't care about their specialty lands this time around. We're either going to get them early or they're going to get us. I don't think it's... If they have a lot of removal, this is not a deck that can go the distance. If you're going up against a fellow blue, maybe a blue-green deck that's not overly dependent on creatures, then maybe you got a chance. I do enjoy the Pawn Prophets just because if we don't have enough lands to start with, there's good odds that they can help make up that balance. In the meantime, it gives you a nice early chump blocker. And just thinking it is a card that replaces itself, sort of like the Splash Portal, is kind of a good deal. that's a terrible card to worry about. Let's see what we got coming up. I do like Sticky Tongue, so 3, 4, 5, 6. If I blink that now, yeah, I'll end up with 7 cards. That's a sorcery. I wish it was an instant, but it's only 1 cost, so that's why it's a sorcery probably. So we get to draw the card from that, and we get to draw the card from that. And we're actually having the opposite problem. We're kind of missing land drops already. And they get a 5/5. Five on turn 3, and only spending 1 mana together. Oh, hello. Well, so much for jump blocking against it. I've got all the wrong cards right now, really. Okay, I did kind of need that. I guess we put down the 4/4. White often has enchantments that they try and use against it, so I do have wear down to destroy an enchantment, perhaps. I don't know. You're not blue, you're white, so I don't know why you're taking so long. They've only got 1 upright land. Probably means they have a battle tactic, and I've got to be very careful, because it's very easy for them to gain 2 power, which means this is going to gain 3 and become a 6/6. Maybe we can have some fun between these 2 spells next turn. Okay, so it's flying again. It's not enchanted itself yet. We're going to let that through. Okay, I think we just passed the turn. They're doing this trick with the flying a lot, so we have to be prepared for that. Maybe we wait. Are they going to do anything? What if I just did this now? I can do twice damage, and then I can still make it to 7/7 next turn if I... So, no attacks. Just because I don't know what they have. Let's try this. It's going to deal 8 damage. Unless they have a hexproof or indestructible spell, we'll be okay. It works! Technically, I guess I should have done that before the attack, so I could have proceeded with an attack. If one of this is a board wipe, then I could still be in trouble. We went to a lot of effort to get rid of 1 creature, but sometimes when they're making these small cheap decks, they only get 1 creature up front, and they get in a bind. Kinda looks like it, doesn't it? Alright, we're attacking for 6. We're waiting for them each time because they've got something that can take priority. Okay, now we're going to throw a Pawn Prophet up into our hand. I'm getting a little irritated with them at this point. Okay, again, we were very mana efficient. We managed to outdraw them on land and use all of it. That's kind of a good thing. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to put a counter on the Bellowing Crier. And then we're going to attack. Because if they do have a board wipe, this gives me a couple of creatures to rebuild. And putting them down now wasn't going to help me kill them sooner. But this is enough damage now. I've got lethal next turn. And I might as well go ahead and put down a land. And give me one more damage. Now in the meantime, I have 2 untapped mana still. Which is on purpose because I still have this overprotect. So if they have something that gives me trouble, I'm not. White often has spells that if you're at toughness or power 4 or more, you die. But the hexproof and indestructible is pretty good. Okay, that's the card they were holding on to the entire time. We won't show them the rest of our hand. We'll just put them out of their misery. Okay, the Froggies have it. 2 in a row. It's where I'm flooding out anywhere nearly as bad as I was during the playtesting. It got me nervous enough that I was thinking maybe I had the wrong mix of cards. That I was literally getting like 12 lands and 10 spells, and I'd go to do a splash spell, and you know, you exile that and you draw a card, splash spell, and it's like I need any spell except the exact same one I just played. So the priority in which you are delivered these cards is still very important. In this case, we want to go with untapped land. Almost all of my other deck designs, I go with the tap land first. But these Bloombarrow Animal decks, you tend to be pretty good about getting a 1-drop quite often. So you want to get in there. Get a chance to have a couple of early hits. Especially blue before, if you're dealing with counterspells. We'll get this in before they get the counterspell set up. And we're not too concerned with bounce when we have 2 of these, because if they bounce something, we can just bring the other one back. Destroy. Destroy. Fine. Overprotect. That's on you, man. That's not on me. You decided to try and kill my little frog. I mean, it's a frog warrior, but still. Crawling Baron, so maybe I'm land. And here, forget flooding out. We missed a land drop already. Which all I need is 3. If I get a 3rd land, I am set. And I'm not going to get it. How about now? We'll draw again. Trigger, trigger. A lot of frog triggers here. Still missing the land. We still managed to scale up our might colors, so they're down to 6 already. It's going to be pretty bad if we manage to kill them with only 2 land draws. Okay, Apocalypse. What can we do? Anything here? Oh yeah, this is kind of cool. Deal twice as much damage. We managed to kill a Sheoldred the Apocalypse. They don't wait for it. We had a 1-drop that we were going to pump up so we had more than lethal damage. They got an on-curve mythic rare Sheoldred the Apocalypse, and the frogs not only killed it, but we had lethal damage on the same turn. I'm falling in love with the frogs. I'm a big fan of blinking as it is, so I was kind of saving these as my last. You've heard of the expression "save the best for last." I wasn't sure if it would be the best deck, but I thought it had the potential to be my favorite deck, and I think it's definitely a contender for that. You notice we haven't had enough room to spare to actually pump anything up with the Oak Hollow Village, but I don't want to put down like a tap land and then try and, wait until turn 3 to put down my 1-drop so that I can turn it into a 2/2. That's just way too much time. Normal stuff, so I mean technically Mildex could probably get us. Discard can really disrupt us bad. Let's put out the Pawn Prophet, pump up our Might Caller, and draw a card. Three Bellowing Criers. I think we're going to put down a Bellowing Crier, draw a card, and discard a Bellowing Crier. Aw. Okay, we'll just get a life. Oh, I don't even have the right color untapped. Never mind. I guess we just attack for once. Where's our Pawn Prophet? Okay, we're bad against flyers. I do have quite a couple of reach and flying things. But even so, I think we just attack for starters here. Look at them think about it. That's fine, actually. Getting rid of that flyer now. This gives me something with reach. Gives me another land. And I can still play this regular land. And that'll give me another land draw, which I think is okay. We're getting into the phase where I actually need as much land as I can get. They like their top card. Do you have another Inspiring Overseer? Marshal. Okay. Fun. They get a treasure token. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Long River Lurker. Make this unblockable. Go to next, attack with it. Go ahead and blink it. Get another land out of our deck and thin the land out. And then we're going to end the turn. And they're going to equip the Gold Vein Pick onto the Dawning Marshal. And we're going to overprotect and kill it when it attacks. I love it when things turn out exactly the way I predicted them. Yeah, baby. Okay. Let's see. This works. Okay, so we put this down. We put this down. Ooh, we're keeping that one. We go ahead and put a counter on the card that just came in. That's lovely. I guess we're not attacking this turn. Ouch. Okay, this is getting to be a problem. We need something to handle 4/4 flyers now. I'm not concerned about them getting treasures. They've already got 7 lands. They've matched us even with our land ramp. So they can cast anything they want. The treasures are not going to be the most important thing anymore. Okay, you come down. They have something that holds up priority. Is it the spell, or is it just the fact they have the treasure now? In any case, we just slowed down again, because we have to wait for them to do all this. Every time we do something, we're going to have to wait for them to click on through. Trigger, trigger, trigger. Whatever we draw is automatically going to go into discard. Another land, that's fine. Then we activate Oak Hollow Village. Pump up 3 frogs. Life is good. I just need one thing I can use to blink. One thing to blink somewhere. Not blocking. I'll go down to 10. What's that final spell they're hoarding? Hello? Why am I freezing all of a sudden? Okay, destroy target artifact or enchantment. I mean, we can get rid of... And then... we just attack with the one that can handle the Serra Angel. It's got trample, so they shouldn't want to chump block with anything. I don't have one way to protect that, do I? I mean, like, I can spend this, but it doesn't do any good because nothing came down. Now they can chump block with the hunter. Oh, wait, that's a mistake. It was going to die anyway if they were going to chump block. They could have just killed it by blocking with the Helpful Hunter. And they should have waited till after the attack to do that, because now they have to discard a card. What are they doing? I think with the 4/4 that they had a big advantage. And I think they just gave up that advantage. We'll see if I draw another land. I'm gonna let that through. What they're attacking with the Healer's Hawk. I can kill that. That makes no sense to me. Aha! Okay. We can exile something and return it. I think we do the Long River Lurker. Okay, so we get... Mod Collar gets one. We get to put another counter thanks to 3-Tree Scribe, and then we get to declare something unblockable. So we're going to pump this up with the trample. Oh no, we actually made it unblockable too. I did that wrong. But in the meantime, destroy target creature with flying. I think you're actually more of a threat. Okay, and then... that works on that. And then we'll attack with, like, everybody except these two. I was going to put the unblockable on another creature and blink it, but we'll just keep the Might Color on the field. They're over 20 in health, so they could technically just take all of this without blinking. They avoid the trample, so they're not making quite as many mistakes. We decline for that. And now we feel a little more comfortable. 6 creatures to 1. I think I'm going to block you this time. There we go. We pump it up. That should give us lethal, right? Exactly lethal. How many victories is that in a row? Grappling Kraken. Alright, we'll play one more. We'll get to a loss someday. You may notice, longtime viewers may notice that I slowed down with this deck. This is a thinking person's deck. There are so many frogs, so many of them have enter into the battlefield effects, and so many of them have these blinking things, and so many have things that affect cards if they are being blinked, if they leave, if they go back up into your hand. That you sort of have to really keep up with everything that's on your field and know what all the consequences are going to be from all of these triggers. And I've already messed up at least once, probably twice. Like the card art. And even with the mess-ups, we're still winning, you notice? Although, I'm pretty sure our last opponent kind of did us some favors there. I suspect I was meant to lose that last batch. No. Now this is here's where we go. We can return the Elder to our hand. We'll usually refuse that. You see, we're going to get an Overprotect. I don't want to throw that in the graveyard. It's so useful. Let me bring down another Mistbreath Elder. So we get 2 quick points of damage in. If they don't kill it, we can go ahead and just leave them both and start putting counters on the Elders. But it does mean we missed a land draw again. Well, all my complaints about flooding out, and none of that happened today. Okay, so you'll notice at the beginning we lose them both. At the beginning of upkeep, return another creature. We had 2 of the Elders down and we had 2 triggers. So one took care of one and the other took care of the other. Let's go ahead and... I didn't realize that having that would not give me the choice. We're going to get rid of one of those. If you get the right combination of other cards, but you're usually talking other one-drop frogs, you can do pretty good with our, sort of like bouncing the card draw frogs, or just continually putting a counter on him. But I think what we're going to do is we need to try and draw into a land, so I really need another card draw. All 3 colors that they want already. But they're blue, so you got to give them extra time. While we're waiting, what do y'all think about the change in the rotation? They moved the rotation up 9. Bottom standard rotation. They've been doing it forever. They keep trying to look at ways to help out the less enfranchised players, and they're always trying to... Oh, hello. What do we want to discard? I guess we discard the one they just bounced. That at least gets us to our third land draw. It's not the ideal start. We're tapped out and they know one of our cards in our hand. And now the point of their deck. I'm a bit concerned that Wizards is overcompensating. They've done this in the past, just in the past few years, like when they decided to go all in on Commander. Suddenly, all of the card designs that were coming out for all of these decks had a definite bias towards Commander, including all of those legendary creatures in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And they tried to do this shift change from Planeswalkers over into legendary creatures. And they seemed to get data in really fast to understand that they had done it too much. There we go. And then we'll just put another counter on Mistbreath Elder. And I think we just keep doing this. We'll bounce the Crier and get a card draw each time. We will discard. We'll actually discard that forest at this point. And then, like this. We'll see if they have a bounce spell. I'm hoping they don't have anything big enough to kill the Mistbreath Elder, but they do have black mana as well, which means they might have removal. Everything's just going to get cheaper and cheaper with the Mind Splice apparatus. So I cannot be considered anything other than an enfranchised player. I was playing Alpha and Beta sold out before I was aware the game existed, but getting into Revised and Unlimited, I was playing, I want to say 1994. I started after the first year that Magic was out. So I did take a long break, but I came back, got into the swing of things. I'm what you called a heavily enfranchised player. So they did this with the legendary creatures and said, oh, we went overboard making too many of them. They're really a special thing. We should take care about them. We should only make so many each set, and we're going to try not to overdo it. They seem to, I mean, that was a lesson they should have learned earlier on in Magic's history. They seem to have relearned it recently. And but now, over-focusing on Commander, they're over-focusing on new players, they're over-focusing on, you know, these Universes Beyond sets that are bringing in the new players and saying, oh, you know what? These guys are having a hard time. Let's make the Universes Beyond standard so the new players have an easier time. Let's do the rotation at the beginning of the year instead of autumn because that's just simpler, and that'll be simpler for the less enfranchised players and the new players. I don't know. Okay, we're going to return the Bellowing Crier, as always, if they let us. If they kill one of these, we'll just blink the other one. Hello? Did they leave? Are we just playing against somebody who left the keyboard? If we do this, I'm spreading counters around now. This is what I was waiting for. Okay, destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is where we gift a card, but not yet. Let's try and attack first and see... Oh, they may have left. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and give them a card, and we're going to destroy both of these. Sweet. And then we still have 2 that we can use to overprotect one of our cards. They do have this Restless Spire that they could activate, but I kind of think that they just left while we were talking. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead and solicit your comments down on the YouTube page there. What do you think of this change in the rotation? What do you think of losing 9 months off of the intended original playtime we were supposed to have with Bloomburrow? What do you think about Duskmourn being rushed out early and then cutting 9 months off of Duskmourn off of the rotation time? Considering those were some very well-received sets, the cards are fun to play with. They're kind of interesting. I mean, here I'm doing the 12 Days of Bloomburrow series, so I'm spending just a ton of time with Bloomburrow right now, just partly in response to the idea that, they're going to go away early. And I'm doing things backwards, right? The way that I usually do them. Because I'm a free-to-play player, I accumulate my collections as I go, which means the newer expansions I have less of. So I'm playing, mostly when I assemble my decks, I'm looking at the older expansions and using those first. So the newer expansions like Bloomburrow and Duskmourn, you haven't seen me play as much. So now, however, everything's flipped, and the rotations changed the entire story, so I'm catching up on my Bloomburrow play. Whenever you give a gift, draw a card. I wonder how many of these I have. It would be interesting. The gift cards have been problematic. There's only 2 or 3 that I'd say are really good for you to use in terms of you really wanting to actually use that gift mechanic as opposed to just use the regular card. This is one of them. Where is it? Wear Down. I do believe this is a very good card. In terms of having a gift mechanic on it and being able to go from 1 destruction to 2 destruction. And what we just did on that last match, there's a classic example. And I'm not sure what's going on with Arena today because we went undefeated. And that's not supposed to happen. There's supposed to be a 50% win-loss ratio. So all I can say is the team of wizards that spy on my play is going to get back at me later today and absolutely crush me for 4 or 5 battles in a row. But let me know if you enjoy the frogs. That's the end of the 10 major animal types. Let me know if the frogs are your favorite or if there's another one that's your favorite. Are also still accepting comments on your guesses as to what the next 2 days of Bloomburrow are going to be, because we went through the 10 main animals. So what else is left? What am I going to do next? I don't think I have any recommendations yet, so you still have a little bit of time to make a suggestion. But I've got a lot of ideas already, and I think I've got for the 2 days of Bloomburrow that I have left. So we'll see what happens. But we thank our Patreon, Sujik, for sponsoring us. There is a Patreon link down there if you want to support the channel. And we always invite you to like or subscribe or comment, interact in some way. And with that, we'll leave it.